I'm gonna be honest with you. Right from the start when I stepped out of my back door that morning, coffee still burning my tongue, boots half-laced, brain barely awake. I did not expect to see a full-blown luxury wedding happening on my land. Not a couple folding chairs and a cooler. Not a backyard barbecue with a minister. I mean white tents, crystal chandeliers hanging from oak branches, a string quartet warming up like they were about to play Carnegie Hall, champagne towers stacked higher than my hay bales. And right in the middle of it all was her, Melissa Crawford, president of the Silver Pines Homeowners Association, standing in my pasture like she owned the place. Hands on her hips, designer sunglasses. Clipboard tucked under her arm, barking orders at 20 different people at once. Move that arch 2 feet left. No, not that table. The other one, be careful with the linen. Those cost more than your truck. And I just stood there on my porch for a good 10 seconds, trying to figure out if I was still asleep. Because last time I checked, this land belonged to my family. 3 generations, my granddad cleared it. My dad fenced it, I maintained it. Every fence post, every irrigation line, every muddy corner where the cows like to nap, I knew it like my own hands. And now it looked like Pinterest had exploded on it. So I walked down there slow, quiet, heart pounding harder with every step. And when I finally reached the edge of the chaos, I cleared my throat and said, "Ma'am, what exactly do you think you're doing on my property?" She turned, smiled that tight. Fake, corporate smile people use when they think they're smarter than you. And she said, "Oh, relax, Caleb. This is community land now. Community land on my deed, on my tax bill, on my grandfather's will." That was the moment I knew this wasn't about a wedding. This was about power. Let me rewind a little so you understand how we got here. My name is Caleb Turner. I've lived in western Nebraska my whole life. 200 acres of pasture, some corn. Some cattle, one red barn that's older than most politicians. And a windmill that squeaks every time the wind gets emotional. For most of my life, it was quiet, peaceful. My closest neighbor used to be half a mile away. The loudest thing I heard at night was crickets and my dog snoring. Then about 6 years ago, the county sold off a chunk of land next to mine. Developers moved in bulldozers. Surveyors' billboards promising luxury country living. And boom, Silver Pines subdivision was born. 200 shiny houses, gray roofs. White fences, perfect lawns. People who wanted the farm lifestyle, as long as it didn't smell like one. At first, I tried to be friendly. I brought eggs, honey wave when they walked their dogs past my fence. Most folks were fine, polite. A little awkward around cows, but fine except Melissa. She showed up in my life like a thunderstorm with a law degree. First time I met her, she drove up in this spotless SUV, rolled down her window halfway, looked at my pasture like it was a crime scene and said, "Do you realize your cows are visible from our cul-de-sac?" I laughed, thought it was a joke. She didn't laugh back. That was red flag number 1. After that, the complaints started rolling in. Manure smell, tractor noise. Rooster crowing, haystacks ruining the view. My barn lowering property values. One time she emailed me, emailed asking if I could relocate my livestock during weekends. Like they were furniture every HOA meeting. She ruled like a dictator with lip gloss. Grass height, mailbox color. Flower species people whispered about her in grocery stores. But nobody challenged her because she loved paperwork. Love lawyers, love power. And my land, it sat, just outside HOA boundaries, which to her felt like a personal insult. She tried everything, letters, warnings, friendly reminders. One time, she even left a notice on my gate that said, "Please maintain acceptable community odor levels." I framed it in my barn, still have it. Then came the wedding about a month before all this. I noticed orange survey flags popping up near my north pasture. Didn't think much of it at first. Thought maybe the county was working on drainage. So I walked over 2 guys with clipboards measuring marking. I said, "Morning, fellas. What's this about?" One of them looked nervous. "We're, with the Silver Pines Event Committee." "Event committee on my land?" I laughed. "This field is mine." They packed up in 10 minutes. I thought that was the end. I was wrong a week later. Melissa caught me at the mailbox. Big smile, "Caleb, we're planning something special. My daughter's wedding, rustic theme. Open fields, natural beauty." "You'd love it," I said. I don't rent my land. Smile vanished. You're not being very neighborly. I said I'm not in your HOA. She stormed off, heels clicking. And apparently she decided that meant yes. Fast forward to that Saturday. Generators humming, music drifting. Workers everywhere, they driven delivery vans through my gate. Strong cables across my fence. Dug holes through my irrigation line. One guy even asked me where to place hay bales. I told him I'm the owner. He went pale. Said Melissa. Told them everything was approved, and then she appeared. Latte in hand, smug. Isn't it beautiful? She said such a waste for cows. Honestly, I told her to leave. She laughed, told the workers to ignore me. Said I was bluffing, so I pulled out my phone and I started recording every word. Every order, every lie. Because something inside me went quiet, that dangerous quiet. The one that means you stopped arguing and started planning. That night I called the county. Checked my boundaries, printed my parcel map. Called Sheriff Mark Reyes, old friend. He sighed when I told him not Melissa again. He told me the truth, civil issue. My land, my rights. Just don't do anything stupid. I looked out at the glowing tents and smiled. Defined stupid because in my barn was a John Deere, and behind it was a manure spreader. Full and ready that night, I barely slept, cows. Restless lights flickering. Music echoing my land had become someone else's stage. And I promised myself, tomorrow they were going to learn what boundaries smelled like. Okay? Pause before I tell you what I did next. Let me break something down real quick, man to man. Because this part matters more than the manure. According to standard procedure, a homeowners association has exactly 0 authority outside its recorded boundaries. 0. They don't get bonus land because something looks empty. They don't get temporary control because there's a wedding. And they sure as hell don't get to rewrite county maps with a clipboard in confidence from a legal perspective. What Melissa did was textbook trespassing. Not oops, wrong driveway trespassing. Deliberate, organized, commercial-level trespassing. Permits from an HOA worth less than the paper they're printed on. Once you cross that fence line? Now, psychologically, this is a psychological trap a lot of people fall into. When they get a little power, they start believing their authority is portable. That if they say something loudly enough, confidently enough, often enough, it becomes reality. It's called entitlement escalation. They stop asking, they start declaring, and most people back down, which teaches them it works. The lesson here is if you don't document, don't verify, don't know your rights, you become the easy target. And Melissa thought I was easy. She was wrong. Sunday morning came in quiet. Too quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you feel like something big is about to happen, even if you don't know what yet. The fog was still sitting low over the pasture when I stepped onto my porch with my coffee. Cool air, wet grass. That clean farm smell I'd grown up with, except now mixed with perfume. Hairspray and leftover arrogance. Out there in the distance, glowing pale in the dawn where the tent's still standing. Still perfect. Still sitting on my land like they'd always belonged there. Nobody had cleaned up. Nobody had moved a thing, which told me everything I needed to know. They were coming back same place. Same assumption, same disrespect. I took a long sip of coffee and whispered to myself, all right, let's get to work. Ranger, my old shepherd mix. Trotted up beside me, tail wagging like he knew today was different. Inside the barn, the air was thick with hay and diesel. That familiar smell of honest labor. My John Deere sat there like it always had. Green paint shipped, see cracked, reliable. Behind it, the manure spreader. Fully loaded, still warm. Courtesy of Daisy and the rest of the herd. Nature's finest, I climbed up. Turned the key, the engine rumbled to life low. Steady, like it was waking up for something important. And in a way it was. I drove slow down the dirt path. Didn't rush, didn't sneak, didn't hide. The tractor's sound cut through the morning like a declaration. Birds scattered, cows lifted their heads. Even the wind seemed to pass. When I reached the edge of the venue, I stopped just for a second. Looked at it, white chairs lined up perfectly. Flower arch still standing. Tables set for brunch, champagne glasses catching sunlight. Speakers waiting to blast music. It looked like a magazine cover, a lie built on someone else's ground. I thought about Melissa's smile, her laugh, her community land speech. Her waving me off like I was a fly. That memory flipped the switch. All right, I said. Let's make it real. I eased forward, pulled the lever, and the spreader roared. The first wave hit like a brown waterfall. Thick, wet, heavy, splattering across white fabric like paint. Only louder and smellier and way more honest. I drove in slow circles, careful. Methodical, like mowing a lawn. Except instead of grass, I was laying down consequences. Chairs disappeared under layers of fertilizer. Tablecloth sacked flower petals turned brown. The arch dripped, the dance floor vanished. And the smell, oh man, it didn't creep in, it punched you in the face sharp. Warm, unmistakable farm truth. Ranger barked from the fence line like he was cheering. I almost laughed by the time the spreader emptied. Everything was coated, even complete, undeniable. I shut off the engine, climbed down. Stood there, hands on hips, surveying the scene. It was awful. It was beautiful. It was justice. I walked over to their fancy wooden sign. Welcome to the Crawford wedding. Picked it up, wiped some mud off. Put it back in the ground. Then hung my own little hand-painted board underneath private property. Trespassers get fertilized. Took pictures, lots of them. Wide shots, close UPS. Panoramas, insurance-grade evidence. Then I went back to my porch, poured more coffee, sat down, and waited. First arrival was a catering van. 2 guys jumped out laughing. Then they stopped mid-step. Mid-sentence, one gagged. Literally gagged, what is that? He said they walked 10 more feet. Turned around, ran back in the van. Peeled out like they'd seen a ghost. Next came the florist, same reaction, shrieking. Covering noses gone. Then the convoy SUVs. Sedans the limo. The Crawford family, Melissa's car, LED the pack. She stepped out, first pink blazer. Big hat confidence until the smell hit her. Her face folded like paper and fire. Oh my God, she screamed. Her daughter stepped out. Lifted her dress, looked down. Realized, shrieked. Stumbled back, the groom swore loud. I leaned back in my chair, sipped, and enjoyed the show. Melissa stormed toward the field. Heel sinking. What is this? She yelled. Who did this? I raised my hand. Morning, Melissa. She spawned you. You ruined everything. I shrugged. Looks natural to me. You're a monster from a legal perspective. I said calmly. I'm fertilizing my land. Her face went purple. She screamed about money, about lawyers, about arrests. I pulled out my phone, played yesterday's video. Her voice. It's community land, now silence. People stared, whispered. Murmured, some snickered. She froze. Right then, Sheriff Reyes rolled up, slow, calm. Surveyed the mess, snorted. Almost laughed. What seems to be the problem? He asked. Melissa pointed at me like I'd committed murder. He destroyed our wedding, Mark sniffed. Ma'am, this is his property. He ruined our decorations. You put them here, no permit. No lease, no agreement. He watched my videos, nodded. Looks clean to me, to you, maybe? She screeched to the law. He replied, case closed. That was it. Her empire collapsed in 12 seconds. People started leaving fast. DJ abandoned equipment, photographer packed up. Guest fled, the bride cried. In the limo, the groom cursed everyone. Melissa stood there, shaking. This isn't over, she hissed. Oh, I said, I'm counting on it, she stomped off. Stepped in, fresh manure, screamed again. Door slammed, gone. By noon, my road looked like a failed carnival exit. Expensive cars fleeing, windows down. People gagging, the field sat silent. Brown stinking. Peaceful in mine. Mark took a coffee, shook my hand. Hell of a way to make a point. Had to be memorable, he laughed. Laughed, and I finally let myself breathe. That afternoon, my phone exploded. Someone had filmed it, posted it. Farmer teaches HOA lesson. 20,000 views, then 50. Then 200 by evening. Reporters were calling by night. The HOA was imploding, bored. Furious meetings, emergency. Melissa exposed 2 days later. She was removed publicly, humiliatingly. A week later, she tried to sue. Her lawyer quit because evidence doesn't lie. And just like that, the woman who thought she owned everything couldn't even own her mistake. After everything settled, after the cars disappeared, after the reporters stopped calling, after the HOA meetings turned into shouting matches, without my name in them, life on the farm went back to normal. Which out here means quiet sunrise. Rooster's coffee on the porch. Cows moving slow like they've got nowhere important to be. That field, the one that caused all the trouble. It grew back greener than anywhere else. Thicker, healthier. Like nature itself was laughing with me. Sometimes I'd stand by the fence and look at it and think, funny how disrespect can poison things. But accountability makes them grow. People ask me all the time if I regret it, if I feel bad, if I do it differently now. And I always pause before answering because the truth is, I didn't want revenge, I want to respect. There's a difference. Revenge is emotional. Respect is structural. Revenge fades. Respect stays from a legal perspective. I never crossed a line, I stayed on my land. I documented everything. I followed the rules. That's why I slept fine afterward. No guilt, no fear. No what-ifs, just peace. And according to standard procedure, that's how these things are supposed to work. Know your boundaries, protect them without becoming what you hate. What really stuck with me, though, was what happened afterward. Letters started showing up, emails, messages from people all over the country, homeowners, renters, farmers, apartment folks, all dealing with their own Melissa, their own power-hungry neighbor, their own unfair rule, their own silent frustration. One guy wrote my HOA fined me for putting up an American flag. Another said they tried to ban my vegetable garden. A woman told me they controlled when I could sit on my own balcony. And every message had the same tone. I thought I was powerless until I saw your story. That hit me hard because this was never about manure. It was about reminding people you're allowed to stand up. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to protect what's yours without screaming, without threats, without becoming cruel. This is a psychological trap people fall into, thinking resistance has to be loud, violent, ugly. It doesn't. Sometimes the strongest response is calm preparation. Evidence, patience, timing. The lesson here is boundaries don't defend themselves. People do a few months later. The new HOA president came by. Nice guy, brought pie. Apologized, told me they'd rewritten their bylaws. Clearer limits, more transparency, less ego. He said something that stuck with me. We forgot we're guests on this land. That's true, all of us are. Even me, I don't own this earth. I just take care of my piece of it for a while. And that means respecting other people's pieces, too. I ran into Melissa once after everything at a grocery store. She looked smaller, quieter, tired. She said I embarrassed her. I told her she embarrassed herself. We left it at that. She moved away not long after. No drama, no celebration. Just closure these days. I've got a new fence up stronger. Higher with little wooden plaques that say, respect boundaries, grow peacefully. People laugh when they see them. I don't explain. Those who know. So if you're watching this, and you're dealing with your own version of this story, maybe it's an HOA, maybe it's a landlord, maybe it's a neighbor, maybe it's a boss, someone who keeps stepping over lines. Here's what I learned: don't explode. I'll think, outlast. Outgrow, document. Learn the rules, use them. Stay human, stay grounded. Stay patient, because fairness doesn't always show up fast. But it shows up eventually, and sometimes it rides in on a tractor at sunrise. Now I'm curious, have you ever had to stand up to someone who thought they owned you? Drop your story in the comments. Let's talk, because nobody should feel powerless in their own space.